So my name is Ihilani Lasconia. Today is the 7th of November, 2020. The time now is 3:13 p.m. And today I'll be conducting an interview with, and could you please say your names?
My name is Kaipu Baker. I am a MFA second year candidate in the Hawaiian Theater program at UH Manoa.
My name is Hina, Keala, and I am a second year master's student in Hawaiian Studies and Library Sciences.
Double trouble, Aka fabulous. So today we're going to be talking stories, just a little bit about the movement to protect Mauna Kea and how you folks have been involved, and also a little bit about your experience at the University of Hawaii at Manoa and your relationship to this movement, as well as the university. Okay to begin?
Yes.
Awesome. So for our first question, when did you get involved with the movement to protect Mauna Kea?
The elder.
Well, I first heard about Mauna Kea was in 2015. I believe I was in my sophomore year in my bachelor's, my undergrad, and I first heard about it through social media, but wasn't really like paying attention to it until they disrupted the ceremony with Lanakila them, and just that I remember watching it live, like the live on YouTube streaming in my Hawaiian language class, and I think that was the first time I really started to pay attention and did my own research instead of like watching what other people are saying about it, and I started digging into it, and it wasn't soon after that when they built the ahu on Wise Field, and I helped to, I guess we all had to like pass the pohakus, and then after that I was just kind of started, I wouldn't say at that time I was a very like political person or like I wanted to get politically involved in anything. Like I had my own opinions and I felt like I knew right from wrong, but I never wanted to get involved until that, because then after the building of the ahu, I think that's when I started to like seek out, people at Native Hawaiian Students this Mauna movement, and how I think as I was learning more about the Mauna movement, I was kind of also trying to find my voice and how I can be, I guess, be my own kind of activist, because I'm not a confrontive person and I don't like confrontation and that kind of stuff. So through this movement, I kind of entered this movement trying to find my political activist voice, and trying to see how I can help from my place being at Manoa at the university, and what skills I can contribute to the movement. That's how I got involved.
Awesome, mahalo.
I was just a junior in high school, actually. I was so young in 2015. But I wanted to skip school and come to the Hali Poaku to build the ahu, but I forget what it was, but I couldn't swing that with the parents. But as soon as I got into UH, I was in 401 with Heoli and Ilima, who were working at NHSS at the time, and they were like, hey, do you want to apply for this tutoring position that we have open? And I was like, shoots, Raj. And then I got the job at NHSS, and I think it might have been as the following spring or something, there were anniversary of them taking down the something just to something really small just to keep the Mauna in the consciousness of the student population at on campus at UH. And I think that might have been when we came up with the name Kia'i Kekahokani, um, because it's in the Velina Manoa chant, and Kia'i had become the catchphrase, I guess, the Ku Kia'i Mauna, and being the Kia'i was kind of like a way of Mauna leadership really kind of interpolating the Lahui into being a guardian, being a steward. And so we decided to kind of take that and put that in our name, and Kia'i Kekaukani just seemed very nice because Kahoukani is the Kia'i of Tuahine, and Kia'i for the whole Pai'aina in this kind of extension. But yeah, so I guess that's a shorter story about how I got involved. And since then, we've just been, whenever anything started to go down, we would usually be the first to know, because we were tuning in, and at all the BOR meetings and whatnot, we kind of just went under that Inoa, a very fluid kind of rotation of people, really invested in making sure that we held our university accountable to, originally it was that idea of Hawaiian place of learning, but I think it evolved naturally to just being mindful and respecting being held accountable to their constituents, which is primarily the students and of course the faculty, but also the Native Hawaiian community, because if you're going to have a university in Hawaii, you should care about Hawaiians and you should respect what Hawaiians overwhelmingly believe. So yeah, that's kind of the genesis of that, I guess.
Kalama, I was on mute. Awesome, mahalo. And did you folks wanted to say anything else about the first question, or are you folks okay with moving on to the second question?
Did mine sound good? Did I answer the question?
Yeah.
Okay. All I would add is that momentum that I talked about was the momentum that just like kept on driving me to just get more involved, and then that's how I found like Keikikaukani, and then figuring out how I could best apply myself in different places, and yeah, that's how I siphoned into Keikikaukani.
Awesome, mahalo. And for our second question, and you folks kind of answered this within the first one, so it's okay if like things repeat. What is your affiliation with the University of Hawaii at Manoa?
I've been a
tyrant. No.
I've been a student at UH. I've been and I am a student. I got my bachelor's from University of Hawaii in the Hawaiian Studies program and Pacific Island Studies program. I also currently work for the university as a graduate research assistant, and I get grants and scholarships from the university. So very university affiliated. But that's why we have the right to push back, because we're such stakeholders here.
Is the question like everything we do for the university, or like just how would we classify ourselves?
It can be how people in an array of ways. So however you wanted to define that affiliation. So it can be your class standing, how long you've attended the university. But Hina's response is also really good to the ways that she's also a benefactor of this institution.
Okay. Well, I guess primarily a student. I was partly raised on campus because both of my parents are teachers at UH. And so I've kind of been a student there for 22 years, I guess. But I also was a student worker for Native Hawaiian Student Services at UH, and now I'm a graduate assistant for in the Department of Theater and Dance. I also do the voiceovers and stuff for UH News. I did a few of those, and some radio spots, whatever. But I'm very, I think I like to think of myself like in my relationship to the university, basically as, you know, the University of Hawaii is the only place that a Kanaka can go to learn about where they're from and who their ancestors were at this moment. If they want to pursue that in higher education, um, the university really has a monopoly on that knowledge for the most part. And so I think I'm primarily a student because of that reason. And, you know, we need to, and I'm a student that cares that the university understands the position that they're in that monopoly. And so I see this Kia'ike Kahokani and all different kinds of Hawaiian movements dating back to the founding of ethnic studies in the late 60s, early 70s, really just as an extension of that idea that the university needs to be held accountable because they are monopolizing this, in some ways monopolizing Hawaiian identity, as it relates to education. So yeah.
Muted girl.
Anything else you wanted to add to this question? And it's just like a formality where I'll ask every time you both answer. Perfect. So our third question is, what inspired you to stand so strongly for the protection of Mauna Kea?
I think for me, what pissed me off the most is that, you know, the people who are really in charge of this movement aren't on the Mauna. And, you know, the fight can be on the Mauna or the front lines per se. As people say, like, sometimes, like, the front lines are on the Mauna or whatever. Not are on the Mauna, but when lots of people say the front lines, and they're kind of referring to, you know, being on Mauna Kea. But I think what pissed me off was that, you know, we have all of, you know, the administration of the university, like, right down the hall from, like, where we're taking part, where we're doing all these classes, where we're learning about it. And, you know, no one was giving them heat about it. And, like, they can be sitting in their offices at Bachman Hall, and they can be controlling, you know, people getting arrested on another island. And I think that's what made me want to stand so strong and make them feel uncomfortable. And, you know, how dare you have everyone else do, I mean, apart from the notion that, like, that the whole thing is just, like, bullshit anyway, but, you know, them being able to just play these high positions far away and not have to do any of, you know, not the dirty work, or being not showing face, and, you know, no one banging on their office doors. No one's there. They just get to sit pretty. And I think that's what made me mad the most, and kind of what made me wanted to, you know, shake their doors because all of these kia'i that they're saying are like horrible and we need to arrest them all. Like, we're in your classrooms, we're in your teacher positions, we're in your administration, so let's make you feel like it and let's make you feel uncomfortable. And yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely part of it. The kuleana, I think, to kind of unmask who is in control and expose, the university for what it is, and to make them uncomfortable. Yeah, that is a really big thing, because there are front lines on every island, for the most part, because the whole state is really invested in this initiative for astronomy, because everybody's getting paid off of it somehow. I mean, not everybody, I mean, but a lot of local government officials from every island are involved. And so understanding that, we're the university is at the kind of the pico of this project, UH Manoa, with the Institute for Astronomy. And it's an initiative that comes from the top down. And so we need to be able to shake up those people who are on the top, and just, they making six figures easy, no matter what happens. So why can't they just, have a little empathy or whatever, I mean, as, the whole notion that Harry Kim brought up at that debate. He was like, "You guys can take this one more." It's like,
you Hawaiians have
oh,
been
bro, you guys have been through so much.
much.
I know you guys can take this last one or one more or something like that. Like, bro, how about you take a little bit out of your paycheck and, actually like consult the community or something. But yeah, so that's definitely one thing. But another reason for me is really just, I felt like Mauna Kea is a way to reach people and to interact with our community and to really have a stronger community presence on campus. And I think that's very important, because, as I said, the university needs to be held accountable to all Hawaiians. Hawaiians, yeah. And also another thing for me that made me really passionate about it in the first place, is the religious side. I'm very invested in Hawaiian religion and different types of cultural practices that relate to that. So yeah, that's something I'm really passionate about. And so any type of infringement on the mana of our people, I feel like needs to be met with full force. And attacking, the firstborn in our mo'okuauhau by many accounts is definitely one of those things. For the same reason that, we had all that, all the protests to the GMO in Haloa. So it's the same thing. They're going to plant something inside of Mauna Kea. So we should at least build an ahu about that and stop it. Yeah.
I think another catalytic event for me was when Lasner proposed the what was it, the space of aloha, where we have to have aloha. What was it called? You're muted.
I wasn't saying anything, but I know what you're talking about. He made a call for something.
That mail, that email, that we all need to have aloha. I forget what it was like. We need to be a space of aloha.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that pissed me off, because I feel like not only the university, but even the state uses aloha as like they always use it kind of like as like it's almost like a crippling, like when in doubt, you guys need to have aloha and stand down and not,
Mm-hmm.
get violent or get ugly or get even like passionate because you guys need to have aloha. And I feel like it's
Yeah.
very crippling. It's a very crippling kind of, using our own olelo against us. And I felt like that was a point where I was like, we need to, not redefine aloha, but, remind everyone what aloha is. And, being able to show aloha isn't always, through the form of a ugly plastic lei and like a honi and come do whatever you like. So I feel like that message, that email that President Lasner put out was really like a catalyst for me, because how the hell I'm gonna have one haole president tell me for have aloha when you don't want desecrating the mauna and arresting kupuna and calling out of shots for more, for asking Hawaiians to be more submissive by having aloha. Get the fuck out.
Yeah, that was in like 2017, huh?
That was right before or right after when we wrote the letter?
Yeah, it might have been right before the letter, because I remember that. Yeah, it's just crazy how they use that aloha to kind of debilitate us. And was that Lani Tevez writes about that in her Aloha State Apparatuses, talking about how they use that. They use aloha to tame Kanaka. Like, yeah. So Hina said that very well.
Yeah, I think that was a point where I feel like where I was thinking about, beyond Mauna Kea, like after the fight of Mauna Kea, there's always going to be something else. And if we can change what people think about aloha, then I think that applies to all Hawaiian activisms and all Hawaiian, what is it called? Movements, yes.
Yeah, and I think especially, like Hina said, the word aloha against Hawaiians is just ridiculous. And having aloha stand on the opposite side of aloha aina, the way they kind of position that, like if you're very pro aloha aina, if you love your land too much, that you must not have any aloha at all. Like that just doesn't make sense at all, because that's basically the argument as it breaks down there. So yeah, redefining. I think I like that idea about reimagining how we view aloha as not just the passive ho'okipa malihini kind of a thing, but as a passionate kind of fight for survival, really, at some point, and as a engine, or maybe to drive our lahui forward. Yeah.
Awesome. Mahalo.
Pretty smart,
That was very smart. That was fantastic. And our next question is, how has your relationship with the university changed since being involved with this movement?
I think it's the same. Yeah, I don't see it as changing or anything. It's. I think we'll always hold this position that if daylight get nuts, then we're gonna get nuts. But other than that, like, the university it doesn't belong to Lasner. It doesn't belong to, even the BOR. belongs to the students, the citizens of Hawaii, I guess, to a larger extent. Um, but especially it belongs to its constituents, which is, the students and the faculty and professors and whatnot. Because we make the university. Lassner is going to be gone in a couple of years. We've seen many presidents before him, and we will see many presidents after him. Same thing with the members of the BOR. They're on constant rotation. So I think it's important that the constituents always hold those people in power in check. And so I think this, like, it just happened to be us this time. And in the 60s and whatnot, it was Auntie Davy and the people who made ethnic studies. And in the future, it'll be somebody's grandkids, yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, it's still the same, because even when I was coming into the university, it's already for me a little bit of like an uncomfortable space, because like, having to like having to learn how you can perpetuate your indigenous knowledge but through Western rules of education is already like a hard not pill to have to swallow, but like it's not the easiest road, and I came in kind of knowing that was maybe gonna happen, not maybe gonna happen, but gonna be an issue. Like, I feel like I'm always like thinking about like, why should I read this book instead of just like going out and doing it, or like those kind of things. But with the university as a whole, I still have the same outlook on the university as a whole, but through this movement, I really, really started to appreciate our professors and our allied professors, because they're the ones who really are at the mercy of the university. I mean, if they're not tenured or anything, because they control their livelihood, they control their paycheck. Us students, I think what I realize is that us students have way more power than I ever thought, because
Mm-hmm.
we don't bow to the university. I mean, we do in terms of like paying tuition and stuff like that, but with that comes a privilege as well to be able to tell the university to bow down to us too, because we help run the university. The university cannot run without the students.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I got a way better, I appreciate our professors even more through this movement. And I think I've grown a lot by working with them, and they've helped me to find my own voice in this political movement. But I really, I mahalo them a lot through this process.
Yeah, that's very important to note. I think that I don't think students understand how hard it is to get kicked out of the university. Not that that's should be a goal or anything, but I say that only to like to illustrate how far we can go to really let the university know how we feel it should be run, because we are like we like Hina said, we run the institution. Our tuition dollars really make the school go, and especially Native Hawaiian students, because we are in the strategic plan. This is part of their initiative. So
we will always be part
yeah.
of their advertising, and if we
Mm-hmm.
can control the advertising for the university, that's when we really can twist the arm of the university, instead of I mean, just this past, this past year, there's signs all over campus saying "Make Manoa yours." Like, Manoa's not yours.
Mm.
And already
Yeah.
us being able to change that narrative of new students coming in and thinking, oh, like this is my Aina, or I can make Manoa mines. This whole thing of like mines and yours and ownership needs to go. And I also just even through little actions that we would do on campus, you could really tell how fragile and how much the administration was paying attention, because we would do an action and then the next day they'll get like a system-wide email from administration saying that call the cops if these activists are making you feel uncomfortable, even though we're not doing anything violent or unsafe. But they were paying attention and they were scared. And I think that was something kind of surprising, that I didn't think. I thought that we were just going to be able to do our thing and they wouldn't really look twice at us. They might get irritated, but I didn't think that they really thought that we were a threat until like those things like that happened with those emails and stuff.
Yeah, they was full on taking down our posters the first week, saying we were like defacing the property or something like that. And I was like, my guy, this is only a tree and it's like it's a monkey paw tree, bro. Like it's nothing special. But Hina mentioned like how the advertising at the university and stuff. And this might be way off topic, but she also said earlier when she first came to the university, it made me think about when I first came to UH. I guess maybe because my parents were in Hawaiian language and I was only around Hawaiians at UH. I thought it was going to be like choke Hawaiians and Samoans and Pacific Islanders and whatever. But I was a little bit shocked to see so many haules. Like so many departments are only people not from here. And like I'm in one right now, the Department of Theater and Dance. Like it is only haole. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6. There are like 6 Hawaiian students in the whole department, and there's only 1 Hawaiian faculty. So yeah, it's crazy how the university is still very much on that 1920s vibe of advertising paradise here in Hawaii, and a little hukilau and show you how to do your lovely hula hands. And yeah, and by the way, you can get your degree, but please enjoy Waikiki and all that stuff. So the way and I think we were talking about this as it relates to the coronavirus last semester, how the university is very much entrenched in the tourist economy as well. So that's like a whole another can of worms that we don't really want to get into right now. But just the fact that understanding that this institution that monopolizes all of this knowledge about Hawaiian identity, and this is the place to figure out, to learn your language, to find out who your ancestors were for Hawaiians, but it's also the very institution extorting and kind of extracting cultural resources and these images of totally like stereotyped Hawaii just to make money off of tourists who are going to be appropriating your culture sometime in the future and naming their kids Leihua. It's so I think understanding that context, to bring it back to Kia Ike Kahokani, makes it like inevitable that we stand strongly, because somebody's got to say something about this crap, and why not you? I guess is the question we were posed with.
Awesome. Mahalo. And for our next question, and you feel free to answer any and all questions in any fashion you choose. But our next question: How do you
Swear.
how do you envision and there's air quotes around this Hawaiian place of learning?
Hmm. I think Hawaiian place of learning, um, just the way it's worded like that, um, it very much leans into the idea that we're gonna do it on a beach and with tiki torches and stuff like that. Um, it it yeah, it kind of feels romanticized, um, and so I'm not sure that's achievable in any way, um, because even that romanticized paradisio kind of um, image that they're trying to paint with that is inachievable. It's never going to happen. Like paradise in itself is not something that can be found. You know, it's always something distant. Like the very definition of paradise is something that is not here but someplace else that is fabulous. It's like the Garden of Eden, you know. Um, but if we were to really make a Hawaiian place of learning, like in a in a sense, like a place where Hawaiians learn about Hawaiian things and stuff, I think we need to start with the very logistical things of putting a bunch of money into Hawaii Nui Akea, so that we can actually hire enough teachers to teach all of the students enrolled in our classes. Um, and with that, I think we can really build upon the I think a very solid foundation that was laid by people like Kumulili Kala, Kumujan, Hananike, um, P.E. Knight, John Wise, Kanalu Young, yeah, Kumuno'eo, uh, all of these brilliant Kanaka Maoli who really got the, Mrs. Brandt, Gladys Ainoa, Kamakukuokalani Brandt, um, who really got Hawaiian studies off the ground. And I think we have enough um, Kanaka with degrees that we could really make a sort of Hawaiian place of learning. Um, but we could really make at the very least an Aloha Aina School of Knowledge um, that would genuinely serve the needs of our um, Lahui and of this Pai Aina. Um, yeah, I don't think you can have a Hawaiian place of learning. Like it just sounds so gross. Um, yeah, but you cannot have a Hawaiian place of learning if it's not geared towards Aina, if it's not geared towards language, Olelo Hawaii, if it's not geared towards making sure that Hawaiians are set up to really take control of Hawaiian futures and plan to have a sustainable from agriculture to cultural resource management to all of these different things, making sure that Hawaii is here to stay and not going to be ridiculously commodified and developed in the future, but instead be a place where we can actually retain some Hawaiian knowledge, and build on that Hawaiian knowledge and have it really like flourish. Um, so yeah, it's not going to happen at the university level. I don't think so.
Yeah, I do not think that that this notion of a Hawaiian place of learning will ever exist underneath the university umbrella, because the university umbrella is underneath the state of Hawaii umbrella. But in a magical world where what I would want to see, for me, if I'm thinking about a Hawaiian place of learning, is a space where it's for Hawaiians, run by Hawaiians, run by Hawaiians, for the betterment and of Hawaiian well-being and Hawaiian Aina well-being and sustainability. I more so don't have an issue. I mean, not have an issue. I more so, when I think about the Hawaiian place of learning, the issue or the concern that I have with that is, how do you define what will not be a Hawaiian place of learning? I think that's where I have more of a concern, because, you know, if the whole university is labeled a place of Hawaiian learning, how are you gonna say, you know, what isn't Hawaiian, and who, you know, if all of us under this university umbrella is, you know, in a place of Hawaiian learning, well, I guess we must all be Hawaiian teachers, and we must all be Hawaiian of this land. So I think more so I want to know, or I would want clear lines of what wouldn't be a Hawaiian place of learning in this umbrella of Hawaiian place of learning, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because Korean studies should never be a Hawaiian place of learning.
Yeah.
Neither should, you know, I think, you know, we have a Russian program. They cannot be a Hawaiian place of learning, and they shouldn't be, because Hawaiians are a distinct people. And so it should be treated as such. Like, I don't see why, yeah. And the other thing too is, you know, in a Hawaiian place of learning, you would think that most, if not all, of the knowledge would be like Hawaiian knowledge, as I mentioned before, like Ike Ku'una. And the truth is, not all of that knowledge is for most people. And I think this is something that our Lahui is grappling with moving forward, but just understanding that, you know, we love our professors at Hawaiian Studies, but Kapu and their own kanawai, you're just like, no, that doesn't work, because if everybody had a kapu, then nobody would be kapu. And so we need to understand that some knowledge just ain't for us. And, you know, you might know something that I shouldn't know, and I might know something that you shouldn't know, but we should just be comfortable knowing that we both know what we must know, and we're both gonna ho'oko the kuleana that was given to us, or that we were prepared for. And yeah, you cannot have a Hawaiian place of learning without that understanding. And so,
yeah, I think going off of that and bringing it back to the Mauna, I think people are remembering and having conversations about this kinds of divinity and Noa versus Kapu, when we talk about Mauna Kea as about Akua, and how, you know, if we're going to be part of this movement, then it's also to recognize that, you know, Mauna Kea is about Akua, and, you know, not all of us are supposed to be up there, and that's why TMT isn't supposed to be up there. So, you know, if we're going to have this standard, we're going to bring the standard of Kapu into our colloquialisms of knowledge and education, then we also have to abide by the same standards as well. If we're going to use it to fight for Mauna Kea, then, you know, we cannot use it as, you know, Ngugi wa Thiong'o says, a cultural bomb. We cannot, you know, is that Am I using the wrong quote?
I
Not
don't think that
culture bomb.
works.
No. Culture buffet. Who says that?
Oh yeah, culture buffet.
Culture buffet, not culture bomb.
I don't know who says that.
We
I
cannot.
forget who
Yes,
says
we
that,
cannot
but
take
yes.
from the cultural buffet ourselves in that.
Mhm.
You know, we're gonna tell pro TMT guys, you know, you need to respect the couple, but are we gonna make the whole university a place of Hawaiian knowledge where everything is Noah? I don't think that could work.
Yeah, I think that might be Uncle Kimo Alama Kealana. He says, you know, Hawaiian knowledge is not a cultural buffet.
Yeah.
I've heard him say that.
Culture buffet.
Yeah.
Perfect. Mahalo so much for sharing. Is there anything you folks wanted to add before we move on?
I hope I said colloquialisms correct.
She'll find it. She'll type it out right. Yeah.
You know what I meant.
So the next question is, how do you sustain yourself throughout this movement?
Bale. Nah. I think having friends that are involved with it. You know, being committed to a hui like Kia Ike Kahokani, where everybody trusts one another, and being in a hui in which everybody is, you know, pretty much friends, and we all trust that everybody is gonna hold cool and we can have honest debriefs afterwards, I guess is what I was getting into. We need to have being able to have honest reflections about what works and what doesn't work, and also get a good laugh out of, you know, the little absurdities that pop up here and there. I think that's important to moving on, to being able to carry on.
For me, well, I mean, when I was growing up, I was always taught, you know, finish what you started. So, and I don't think that this even started in 2015 or 2014 or whatever. I think it all starts from us just being born Hawaiian. I think we all have an inherent kuleana already. And if, you know, once you choose to awamo some kind of kuleana, you cannot throw it down, or you cannot not do it. And especially,
it's not an option.
Yeah, it's just not an option. And I previously talked about it, but I don't think that, you know, this is just learning about how to be an activist for Mauna Kea. I think there's always going to be, you know, a TMT Mauna Kea movement like this. Even after it's over, there's going to be another one, and there's going to be another one. But finding ways and strategies in how to make it easier for, you know, our keiki to be able to fight their Mauna Kea TMT movement, it's that much better, because we got to learn from, you know, the Ko'olave movement, what worked and what didn't work for them. And, you know, because of that kahua, we get to thrive at our level. And if we make a kahua now, then it's another step that our keiki and our mo'opuna can, you know, be that much higher to be able to fight their battles. So I think, you know, this movement isn't just a Mauna Kea movement. It's the movement itself, I think, is sustainable because it applies for all of the Pai'aina. And even in all of the little movements that you know, got to shine light from Mauna Kea. We got to shine light on, you know, Kahuku, that movement. We got to shine light on
Manalo.
Yeah, Waimanalo at Huna Huna Niho, or
Hunana Niho.
Hunana Niho, and we got to shine light on the guys, the Pa'akai guys in Kauai, you know, like through our movements, through the Mauna Kea movements, we got to, you know,
Amplify.
look back and shine the light on the whole state as as he said, is amplifying it. So I think, you know, when I think of how I keep sustained, I'm looking past Mauna Kea, because I think that after this victory, we're just gonna, the work isn't how, like, we just have to follow more, and, you know, who's next? Like, that's how I'm thinking of it. And yeah, I just want to be able, I don't think that when, like, I'm a tutu, I don't think that looking back at where was I during this movement, like, I would not want to tell my kids I was, you know, chilling doing my homework. I don't think that for me, I wouldn't be able to, I wouldn't like my answer if that was my answer. So I'm thinking about my future keiki, future mo'opuna, and not only for them too, but I'm thinking about, like, my kupuna, and I'm doing it for them, where they lived in a time where it wasn't okay to promote Hawaiian Ike, or wasn't okay to have these kind of conversations. And yeah, I do it for them as well. So that's what sustains me.
Oh, mahalo. I appreciate it. Is there anything you folks would like to add upon completing this question before I move on to our last question? Okay, perfect. So for our last question, and Hina, you kind of touched on it a little bit. If you could say anything to your kupuna or mo'opuna, what would it be?
Right on. Nah, nah, nah.
That's nails.
You know, to my kupuna, I think this is going to be a more difficult one because, you know, my kupuna, I think they actively chose to not be Hawaiian. At least on my dad's side, and on my mom's side, it was kind of beaten out of them. And so a lot of my aunties and uncles, they moved to Kansas, they moved to California, they go to school, and then they decide that, you know, I'm not Hawaiian anymore. So to them, I guess I'd just say I understand. And to the kupuna who got it beaten out, I'm gonna make it worth it for you. To my mo'opuna, I'd say you better be better than me, because, you know, I know, at least in my family, you know, my parents worked very hard to get me to where I am today. And the generation before them of, you know, their mentors and whatnot worked very hard, persevered through social pressures and various, you know, kind of state apparatuses to, you know, let that Ike be normalized again, be even present in institutions like the university and in the community in general. All the different kumuhula and whatnot, they really pushed hard to make it possible for us to even be standing here. You know, they paved the way, they set the kahua. So me standing here right now, I know I'm going to do the best to build this kahua into a small heiau. And I would hope that my kids expand on that, and maybe get us, like, clear out the land, you know, so that we can have a mala that sustains this heiau and have things that, you know, contribute to the mana of this heiau. And to my grandkids, I'd say you gotta you gotta put an anuhu on this heo. You gotta elevate the mana of our family. You better be way better than me, because I know my kids are gonna be better than me. I'm gonna make sure of that. And you know, I hope that I'll be better than my parents, and that we can keep just leveling up, because like we talked about sustaining and moving on in the last question. There's a couple kuleana that you gotta take to the grave. It's not an option to not do this. And so, and my kids are gonna know that they're gonna take it to the grave too. Otherwise, they're gonna get it from them, and I'll be coming back from beyond, and they'll know. Yeah, we need to be better. Kuli'e Kanu is a thing, like try your best, strive for the summit. But I think I'm really getting to the point where I'm thinking we need to get to that new. We need to be there. Like, why are we trying? Let's get there. Like, stop trying and start doing. Stop trying and start doing. I mean, yeah, because when we get up to that nu'u, we're gonna look across the horizon, and we're gonna see there's another one. There's a higher nu'u. So walk down the mountain and go climb that one now. Yeah, there will always be more nu'u. We just got to be ready to. We just got to have the right boots. We got to pack the right camping gear. We got to learn how to hunt. We got to learn how to find water. Because there are so many nu'u to climb. You better be ready, because even if you die halfway up, at least your kids can finish them. That's what I think.
Oh. I guess for me, it's not more what I could tell my kids. 'Cause, I mean, I've never been good at words. So, I mean, just like how Kaipu said, the work is never pau. So there's no reason that they should ever stop or ever, think that they've done enough, because there's always work. And even if your work is enough, the next kuleana to make sure that your kids know how they're gonna level you up, but yeah, I'm junk with words, so I don't know what I could tell my kiki other than I just showing by example. I think I never wanna not. I don't know. It's hard, yeah, because I don't ever want to tell somebody what to do. I want them to know what to do just by seeing how I've done, and making sure that they reach above it and they strive above it. It's more so I want to make sure the legacy that I leave is not only one that my kids will be proud of and want to strive to be like, but one that has steps above it to pass me. From my kupuna, I mean, it's so hard. What else is my kupuna? Of course, I want to mahalo them, but I don't know what I would say. I don't know. Gosh. don't know. I can't answer that one. I don't know.
No worries, that's okay.
I'm more so thinking of I hope that they're happy with my actions more than what I can say. I hope my actions speak way louder than anything I could ever say.
Perfect. Mahalo. And is there anything you folks wanted to add in regards to this question or any other question that was asked during the interview? Awesome. So the time is 4:14 p.m. The length of this recording is about 1 hour and 1 minute. My name is Hina, and do I have your consent to end this interview?
Mm-hmm.
I
All right, I'm gonna stop recording right now.